sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one is just a rezoning request. It is from Stoker Development, LLC. Rezone 1.8 acres from single-family R-15 to single-family R-6. Subject property is located at 310 Eagle Road. This is along the north side of Eagle Road, a few hundred feet west of North Oak Street, and directly across from the Langdale Place residential development, which has been there a number of years. In your packet describes the history of the property. More notably, this is the exact same rezoning request and applicant that we had 5 years ago in 2020. That was also requesting rezoning from R-15 to R-6. But under the procedures back at that time, they were also requesting simultaneous approval in a second case, which was for planned development within R-6 zoning. The city no longer entertains such requests simultaneously. We have to rezone first to make it eligible for planned development, and then consider a planned development secondary. That is what the applicant is requesting here, except they are taking the first step of just the rezoning from R-15 to R-6. In your packet is a copy of the site plan that shows some of the details. Some of the similarities before is under that PD request. It was a request for 15 mixed residential type development, and now the applicant is requesting initially 17 on their site plan, but I think they have now backed it off. And we'll get to those details in a moment. First of all, the maps in your packet, you see the zoning pattern of R-15 on the north side of Eagle Road, a lot of RP and OP along North Oak Street. Langdale Place is zoned RP to the south. And then westward down Eagle Road, you get into a more mixed pattern that dominates still by R-10 and R-15. Subject property in the neighborhoods immediately to the east and west and north were previously a Lowndes County island that was zoned R-15, developed many, many years ago. But as noted in the staff report, these properties along the adjacent streets, which is Walmart and Jadan, even though they're zoned R-15, the lot sizes, the house sizes are more akin to an R-10 development. So you're looking at R-15 zoning, but more of an R-10 development pattern. Along Jadan and Walmart, at the head of the cul-de-sacs, one is zoned R-15, the other one R-15. Those are existing duplexes, also from many years ago. And I actually think a lot of these houses were developed in the county before the county adopted zoning in 1972. In other words, they've been here a while. But you see the current zoning pattern. Character area is established residential for much of this surrounding area, which means only residential zoning is eligible. And that's up through and including RM. Aerial image, this is from 2007. You see the rooftops, subject property, and the housing that's around it with a couple of the duplexes. And in the aerial image, the duplexes you can really see by the dual driveways or the parking lot in front, indicating more parking that you would not normally see for a single-family residence. Boundary survey in your packet, this is actually the same survey as 5 years ago. Subject property has an existing rental residence, sits way back off the road. This is looking up the existing driveway, which you see is unpaved. But this is standing at the driveway entrance at Eagle Road with a little bit of a zoom lens. If you look immediately to the right, you're looking into the backyard of the house that faces Walmart to the east. And then looking eastward down Eagle Road, this is looking toward the North Oak Street intersection. Directly across the road is the wooded front yard of Langdale Place. You see their parking lot beyond the trees. And then looking westward down Eagle Road into the residential areas. Also note that there is construction activity there. The widening of Eagle Road has now finally commenced, so it's going to be under construction for a while. And that was a topic of conversation when this request came through 5 years ago. And then adjacent, as an example, this is the northward view of Jadan from Eagle Road looking into that cul-de-sac neighborhood. The brick building way in the back, that's one of the duplexes that I had mentioned. From the cul-de-sac looking back toward Eagle Road, and then one of the houses, this is up near the corner of Eagle Road. Just some examples of that single-family neighborhood that is there. In your packet, I've included some of the same maps that we had generated 5 years ago. This is all about a comparison of densities and what they might allow for this property, whether it be R-15, R-10, or R-6. So as a comparison, as it's currently zoned as R-15, if someone were to propose a conventional single-family subdivision, it is likely the scenario would look like this. There's enough room there once you put in the required public or private street for access. You've got to have a cul-de-sac or turnaround. And all that really does is allow room for 3 lots under R-15. Calculated lot areas under this scenario shown. So even though they're zoned R-15, the lot sizes would have to be just a little bit larger than that to fill it out. There's not enough there. You get a 4th lot, and you have the required street frontage in the lot area. By comparison, if you rezone to R-10, you gain 1 more lot for conventional development. The lot sizes are a little bit smaller, but again, note that they are more than 10,000 square feet, and one of them even would be an R-15 standard. Another comparison for R-6 conventional layout, this is a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet for a single-family home. So we go from 4 in R-10 up to 8 in R-6. Again, meeting the minimum standards, a little over 6,000. If we were to look at a duplex scenario, if the surveyor held their thumb just right on the mouse, they might get 6 duplex lots, just barely. Duplex lot in R6 is a 9,000 square foot minimum. So the math is there in area, if you add all these numbers up, to barely get 6 duplex lots, but you only have about 70 square feet to play with. So very, very tight math. My guess, in all likelihood, it would end up being 5 duplex lots and 1 single family lot. Seems a more likely scenario. And again, all 3 of these are a comparison of conventional development standards. In other words, not a plan development, just as zoned, straight out the gate, standard development regulations. What the applicant is proposing in this case is single-family attached or townhomes or townhouses that have to follow very specific standards. Those are contained there in your packet. This is a rendering of the facade of a 4-unit building. However, they're proposing parking in the form of driveways in front of these units, as indicated on their site plan. The packet that went out to you originally had their original concept for site plan. However, they have since revised it to show, I think, 1 less dwelling unit. If I count right, this is 15 or 16 units for townhomes. But what's more notable is the comparison that these are more narrow units. You might remember a month ago when we amended the LDR, that proposal came before you, where we changed the minimum lot width for townhouses from 25 feet to 24 feet. The original plan from the applicant showed a 22-foot width for the townhouses, which would not be allowed conventionally, but could be considered under a plan development request, and I believe that was their intent. This particular plan, in an effort to reduce the footprint of the buildings, they're now showing a townhouse width of 13.5 feet wide. So much more narrow, but in an effort to reduce the footprints of the buildings, and I think have more room for buffering and landscaping. It also changes the parking. The previous one, they would have had driveways wide enough for 2 cars. These are only wide enough for 1. These are 2-bedroom dwelling units, so they would have to make up the difference in parking. There is room on this site plan to add some parking areas. The applicant's engineer, I think, can address that. I think they've already explored a few other concepts to show how that might work. In your packet also is a rendered version of this site plan to show the added landscaping that they are contemplating around the perimeter of the property. And then to reference here is the previous site plan in your packet, but that is not what the applicant is currently proposing. But keep in mind, what is before you is not a plan development request, but simply a rezoning request from R-15 to R-6. Most of the issues about that are all about density, and I've explored that at length in your packet. Most of that is a repeat from what was described 5 years ago, because it was the same type of request, and staff's recommendation is still the same as 5 years ago, where we had recommended approval of R-10 zoning instead of R-6. and finding R10 consistent with the comprehensive plan and our standards for exercise of zoning power. Most of the logic for that is based on the abutting development pattern. Even though it's zoned R15, the pattern is R10. The property unusual configuration really makes it difficult to develop conventionally because of the expense of the road. So in the staff's view, this property really could benefit from a planned development proposal, but the density on the property needs to be reasonable, and in my view, it needs to sort of match the density of these surrounding neighborhoods, which is R10. So hence the recommendation for R10 instead of the R6. Glad to answer any questions you might have on this one.
Questions for staff?
Can you show me the slide about what the applicant is proposing under R6? What he's actually, is that it here?
That's it. And you see by comparison, the lots of the single-family homes to the east and west on those streets.
So that proposal would be 16 units, is that correct?
16 units. This one's showing 16, that is correct.
And that pattern of building would be similar to the one you showed us, the rendition of the...
This is their drawing of what the building would look like in the front. The only difference is there would be a 1-car wide driveway in front of each of these units. And I think this site plan shows the driveway at 30 feet long. Not quite long enough for 2 cars. And I think they've put some further thought into it, and I'll let their engineer describe that to you.
And you're thinking R10 is better suited for this situation?
R10, in my view, here's the conventional R10 layout. See, right now, they can do 3 lots without any public hearing. R10 conventional gains 1 more lot. There's enough land area there in R10 to do 7 lots, if you don't include the street. But once you add a right-of-way, whether it be public or private, you see it's eating up about 1/3 of the property. Very expensive to build a street to conventional standards. That expense, which would be maybe $200,000 as a round number, then it gets divided up into 4 lots. That makes each lot very expensive and not really feasible. However, under plan development, it is possible to create a master plan. You can reduce the expense of providing access to a handful of houses. So in R10 plan development, a request for 7-ish dwelling units under a creative master plan with a shared residential drive for access that meets all the requirements for public safety, I think is a doable option, but it's something that we need to see the specific details. So my recommendation is to set the R10 zoning in place and allow the applicant or a future developer to come along with what I would hope to be a quality plan development request.
And under this R10 layout that you currently have on the screen?
That's without plan development.
This is without plan development, straight R10 zoning.
Okay.
And you get the difference between 3 and 4 lots. Note in R10, the lots are a little extra large because of the configuration. You've got plenty of width to work with, you don't have much depth. These lots are only 100 feet deep. Those lots nowadays are 125 or 150 in that type of zoning, so hence the unusual configuration of the property, which in my mind only adds to the argument in favor of a quality plan development.
And when you say these lots, that's for single houses or?
This R10 only allows single-family homes, does not allow duplexes, nor does it allow townhouses.
Sorry to be so.
R6 allows duplexes or townhomes if you meet the townhouse.
R10 would not allow that.
R10 does not.
And under standard R6,
All right, thank you.
This is standard R6 here on the screen for single family. If you re-crunch the numbers for duplex, which is a 9,000 square foot minimum, if you hold your mouth just right, you might get 6 lots. I think more likely 5 duplex lots and 1 house lot left over. So that, you're looking at maybe 11 dwelling units total.
That's all I have.
anything further?
Matt, is this area large enough for our emergency apparatus, fire?
Well, that would be part of the development review. So this is a conventional street built to city standards with a 100-foot wide cul-de-sac. That allows room sufficiently for turnaround of emergency vehicles, which is the city minimum standards, 50-foot wide right-of-way. A plan development proposal would not probably be in a right-of-way, but an access easement that is shared. It would still have to provide enough physical space for emergency vehicle turnaround. We've had requests similar, it's mentioned in your packet, but a few years before the request in 2020 at 316 Eagle Road, exact same size lot and configuration, 1.8 acres. They went to R-10 zoning, came in with a plan development, and were approved for a plan development of 8 dwelling units as single-family detached homes on a creative street pattern and lot layout. But that met all of the requirements for emergency access. In other words, enough room for the fire truck to turn around. So as a comparison, down the street, we had a PD on the exact same size and shape property for 8 houses. I can easily see something similar here.
And just to clarify, there are 2 bedrooms, one parking space for the car.
They would have to provide enough room for 2.
Okay, that's fine.
So with a single car driveway, that's not enough.
Mhm.
I had a conversation with the applicant's engineer. Their remedy to that is to provide additional parking on the site. And as you see on their current site plan, there's a lot of extra space available there. What it would really trigger is spreading those buildings out just a little more and providing some other parking.
But that would be a plan development there, or?
This would require plan development, even in R6 zoning, because the townhouses proposed do not meet our minimum standards for townhouses. So it would be what we call a deviation under plan development. And then setbacks and parking and buffer yards, all that become negotiable under the next plan.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this request?
You're busy tonight, man.
Had a busy day.
Matt gave me a lot of stuff to go through and talk about in the time period I've got. Yes, we will have a size large enough for fire trucks, that little T-bone at the top, that size, we'll have that size so the fire truck can pull forward, back down the road and be able to leave. That's the intent of that will hammerhead, or kind of halfway hammerhead at the top is intended for fire. I think you asked about parking spots. There's only one in each building. We're gonna push that top building up enough and have parking on the bottom road. And between the bottom ones, there'll be enough parking on the property. You may not have it directly by your building for your second car, but there will be enough parking on the property. Matt, can you go back to the zoning map real quick for me, please? So the property Matt mentioned is unique, and it's unique in several areas, but one of the shared area we have for the area will not support us being RP. There's RP to our left and there's RP to the right, but where we are is neighborhood.
It is established residential.
Established residential, so we can't do RP zoning, which would get us what we want. That's what we'd like to be in RP zoning, which again is just our left and just our right. We're not allowed to do duplexes, even though there's a duplex left and right of us. So, this is an aging neighborhood. It was built before code was really in place, so it's not really something, in my opinion, y'all might have different opinions about it, but it's not gonna be somebody's gonna come in and buy the lot and, build a $750 million home there, surrounded by all those other neighborhoods that are, aging, and, majority of them around us are rentals. I think we got a map of them. Of there, probably 50% of rentals or duplexes in that area. It's not the normal area we would build single-family subdivisions in. So what we're looking at, it really just comes down to a numbers thing. And if we did it as the single-family R6, the traditional layout, it's about $100,000 per lot development cost when you buy the land and put on there. It prices out of the market to put that low number of units on there. And it's kind of the same thing doing R10 density. The way we were looking at it previously, it's about $73,000 a lot when you add in the development cost. And the reason why it's so high is you have that road at one side. Every time we build a road, we want to have houses on both sides of the road. So when you have to build a single road and it's the same cost to put it back there, it costs twice as much for the footage of road per unit, and it's just too much for somebody's going to pay for them. The size of can you go to the site plan for me, Matt? The site plan we have shown here compared to the old one, we are a smaller footprint. We have a couple different footprint options we have. The intent of that smaller footprint is to give us a buffer to all the neighbors. The biggest ones that they had concern 5 years ago were the neighbors to the north, to the rear. It's a nicer, in my opinion, nicer single-family subdivision, and they were pushed right up to the back property line. They were basically putting houses within 25 feet of that property line. We've got 128 feet of that back line. Some big magnolia trees that are beautiful trees. The rest of the properties are done. Don't drive by and look at it, expect anything nice, because they've done construction there, and they're just piling stuff in the back of the property. It's an eyesore. It's not something I'm proud to have in the city of Valdosta. And that's kind of the unique part of this property. If we leave it like it is, it's just gonna sit there for years. If we can't find something that works that they can sell, it's just gonna sit there for years because it's too expensive a piece, and not a neighbor, if you wanna go buy a $750,000 home and put on this property to do a single property, it's gonna cost too much to build that road back there, to put 3 or 4 houses back there. So, really, it requires something creative like this, or something that's a little bit out of our norm, because we do have RP zoning and duplex zoning all around this. It's not technically in code, it's grandfathered in, not something we can get approved now. So that's kind of our intent for this. The smaller units, we see this as a feeder program, a feeder house for Langdale Place across the street. My parents are aging, they're gonna need something like this. They don't want a big house to keep up, they don't want to mow a big yard. So something like this, a smaller house footprint they can afford, and then, when they need medical care, they'll move across the street to Langdale Place. I've also got a daughter who graduates a year from now, from nursing school. We need this kind of place for nurses, that kind of stuff. A small, affordable house, to be built in a nice area, close to town, not way out somewhere. That we're trying to keep the price point down, because I'll probably pay for that house, I'll probably subsidize her for a couple of years, that kind of stuff. So we want this kind of thing, I think, in the community. And we all talk about affordable housing. There's not many tracts of land in Valdosta that you can buy and put up a quality development. There's not many good, safe areas that we want to put these kind of things in. There's vacant land, and this is kind of those opportunities. It's a unique infill situation. It's not a traditional thing, and the traditional single-family road and that kind of stuff is just not going to work in this part of the city, because it costs too much to build this kind of things under today's economy.
Now, let me ask you, how do y'all feel about an R10 plan development versus an R6?
Yeah, the R10 only gets us, I think, 7 units, and it's gonna cost about $75,000 per unit. And these units, the cost of that's just too much for, 1,000 square foot unit to absorb it. The market won't be there to buy this unit, because the cost of the building costs so much when the land cost is that much for those small units. If it were a bigger apartment, we had, more of them, the math would be a lot better, but just this size tract, it doesn't work.
Well, I kind of have mixed feelings. I mean, I know a lot of the homes around there are rentals, and we do need smaller footprint homes. And I think with the widening of the street, it's gonna make it an attractive place for, baby boomers that are getting ready to go into Langdale. I just worry though about, like, if you're looking at it from the top and looking down, and you're seeing all these single family units, and then you got down, these townhomes.
And it's single family on the streets, there's duplexes on the streets.
Right.
If we have a density of duplex, we're good. So we're across the street's Langdale Place, that's one of the most densely populated areas we got in the whole county. And you got duplexes side by side, if we have that density, we're good. But that's what we're shooting for. It's kind of out of character, but then again, it's really
No,
almost
you're
not.
right, you're right. I think it's a good use of the property, given, the way it's shaped.
Any further questions for the applicant?
What are your thoughts, Mr. Baker there?
I think it's great with the expansion of the hospital, give the nurses and the traveling nurses and stuff like that, and the college. I think it's a great idea.
I mean, we're gonna have a medical school here, we're gonna.
So it falls right on that.
Anyone on this side of the table like to add anything?
I didn't realize what the property is, so.
Yeah, that RP right below us is Langdale.
Yeah, when I saw Jade's Place, I knew what it was.
Well, I'll go to my concern is, I don't like to see, if you go the other route where it would be available for land development, and then drop these houses, this type stuff in there, and you got this elevation, and you got the houses on both sides there, that bothers me. I don't think it's fair to the board, even though we ain't heard no negative or anything.
But I I think
But it's
because
just
they
not
have shrunk
consistent.
it in, I think they're gonna be so far off the property line, I don't think that will be an issue.
Could you speak to that aspect?
Yeah, there's a lot of existing vegetation, especially on the western side, and we're planning on leaving most of that in place. The existing vegetation is there, and we can plant some, we can do some things to help. There still will be a building back there, but when it's, when you're 50 foot of your back fence line, and there's another 30, 40 foot in the property, it's not like it's sitting right on the property line, like some other places would be. I mean, it's always gonna be something about there. Obviously, if you live there, you'd rather nothing be there, but.
Yeah, I
we
can
want to
understand the
provide
back part,
Okay.
from what you said, with the 100 and something
Yes, sir.
feet back there. But if you run this right down the middle, you're gonna have the road is running right at the back door of folks on the right. But we're not to that point yet of arguing the point. We need to go ahead and,
Yeah.
we need to go ahead and
It's zoning.
finish the zoning thing,
Yeah.
then we can throw our 2 cents worth into that one.
Further questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anyone here, actually, we have used our time for the in favor. Is there anyone here that would like to speak against this case?
Hello, my name is Chastity Blue, and I live right back there in the Wagon Farm. There is no vegetation anymore, they have cleared it all out, so I don't know what magnolia trees and all is being referred to, because when I look across, I can see out to the house.
You just look at, what was your address, where do you live?
303 Betty Joe Drive.
There you go, Drive.
You're on the back.
So you're behind.
Yeah.
I'm here to formally oppose the proposed development of the townhomes by Jerry Stoker. My concern is not only rooted in the incompatibility of the project with the surrounding single-family community, but also in the documented history of the developer's past projects in Valdosta. In 2025, the city of Valdosta filed legal action against Jerry Stoker and the Stoker Group due to severe flooding in the Chadwick subdivision. The developer's stormwater system was designed to handle runoff for only 11 acres, despite more than 100 acres draining into the neighborhood. This was an oversight and resulted in repeated property damage, blocked access roads, and long-term hardships for the homeowners. Even though the city approved the grant for the original plans, the officials emphasized that at the time, the responsibility was on the proper design for the developer. This case raises serious concerns about the developer's commitment to responsible planning and long-term community impact. I'm not willing to risk the repeat of past mistakes. The townhome development will bring higher density, more impervious surfaces, and significantly greater stormwater runoff. Given Mr. Stoker's prior failure to provide adequate drainage, there is reason to doubt the ability or willingness to prevent similar problems in this new project. The proposal threatens to disrupt the single-family character of the area, and when that development fails, it resides on the city, who bears the cost, flooded yards, damaged infrastructure, and taxpayer-funded remediation. Allowing Mr. Stoker to proceed with this without addressing his past failures places an unfair and unnecessary burden on the community. For this reason, I respectfully urge the council to reject Mr. Stoker's proposed townhome development in the neighborhood. The risks to the residents, property values, and municipal infrastructures are simply too great to ignore, particularly given the past developer's record.
Thank you, Ms. Luke. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Mark Heffelfinger. I live at 305 Betty Joe. I'm on the north side, also right next to Chastity, who knows what she's talking about because she's been in the real estate for years. Of course, our neighborhood has been established for over 60 years with a consistent architectural flow. I think you said it best, Ms. Vicky, you said BAM. I mean, that's what would happen when these, it would just ruin the architectural flow of the whole area. Could be future historic looks and its historic significance that this part of Valdosta would be taken away. I want to address the magnolia trees he's talking about. There's one magnolia tree. I've been staring at it for years. And if we put anything in there, that road's going to knock over that, cut down that magnolia tree. And the only trees on on my border are like scrub oaks, and I wish that they would get cut down, really, because they're endangering my shed that I have built, the workshop I have. So maybe that could be a caveat, cut down the trees on the northwest and central side of the property, because they're eyesores. I have to also speak for Greg DiMaggio, who had back surgery today, couldn't be here, that's on Jaden. He also borders the property, and he's very much opposed. And we were also here 5 years ago, and it was pretty unanimous, and nothing has really changed. It's still, I think, 95% the same neighbors living there. Like I said, we've all been there for many years, my wife and I, for 20 years now, and we're the third owners of our house. What we need to do is make whatever is built back there in keeping size-wise with the rest of the neighborhood. And I count, if you see what the current property sketch is, where it's currently R-15, see how there's 4 houses on each side? Well, put 4 houses there, and we would be very happy, because each of those 4 lots would be well-maintained. You can cut a road in, and talk about, I would like to see a fire truck try to turn in on that skinny lane that we're talking about with R-6. And we might need to invest in some smaller fire trucks, squad trucks to get in there or something. Anyway, I am opposed to rezoning R6, and I speak for at least 7 of my neighbors. And they're not even here, some of them aren't here. R10, I feel would be fine with about 4 houses. I think everybody would be very happy, it'd be in keeping with the neighborhood. We'd be happy residents, and I think the ones who move in would be very happy with their area also. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. We have time for one more.
Thank you, Captain. I appreciate the board listening to me again. Like the gentleman said, we were here in 2020, and we've gone through this before. If you'll go less than a
I'm
quarter
sorry.
mile up the road,
Can you state your name
Anthony
and address
Road.
again?
317 Crestview Drive. We were here in 2020 for the same situation. If you go less than a quarter mile, you have Crestwood Drive. And you have $250,000 homes there. Beryl Scruggs lives back there, Jody lives back there, and they're beautiful homes that really keeps the value and the integrity of our neighborhood up. On Jadan, there are 2 rental duplexes there. Unfortunately, the ideal of having traveling nurses come and people visiting and stuff turns into more of like an Airbnb and not a long-term staying situation. If you allow them to do an R6, if you'll go to that webpage and show that, in the duplexes on Jadan, unfortunately, it's not one family on one side and one family on the other. It's 2 families on one side and 2 families on the other. As the gentleman here spoke about the parking situation, to double the lot, the parking lot will totally get rid of all your grass. There's not going to be a front yard. If you'll show the picture of the proposed R-16 2-story housing, that backs up to Jadan, which will look right into everyone's neighborhood. There's no hiding it. There's no getting away from it. There'll be no privacy at all. You can see there's no parking there, and by putting a parking lot at the end of the street for a resident to have to walk to their house proposes a few problems there. And once again, in 2020, there just wasn't enough room for emergency vehicles to do what was needed. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir. Unfortunately, that is the end of our time for the opposition. Do you have some questions for staff, or?
Yeah, just to clarify, this is not what they're building, or this is what they're?
That's a proposal of what
Proposal.
the building would look like, but I did note that this does not include the driveways and the parking lots.
This is R6, this is what it looked like.
This would be
R6.
townhouses, which requires an R6, and in this case, also a plan development.
Okay.
Matt, if you cannot answer this, I'd like Mr. Inman to take the question. Based on the applicant's proposal, how far will they stop from where, whatever buffer there is to Betty Joe Drive? How many feet?
I think they said it was 100 and something feet. In this drawing,
128.
the building and the north property line. They also said adding more parking in this area is going to push the building back a little ways further. Probably not more than 10 feet.
Okay, thank you.
you ask the applicant if they're, agreeable to R10?
That was part of the discussion. That does not afford enough dwelling units to meet their.
So it's an up or down thing right now, as far as they're concerned.
It's the same applicant, same request as 5 years ago. You had described in your packet what the planning commission vote was at that time and city council.
So,
But R10 was talked about as maybe seeking plan development in R10 or even plan development in R15, which allow almost that many. But they are wanting 15 or so dwelling units, and that requires at least the going into R6.
but it would not, they still would not be able to do the townhouses in R10, correct?
Correct, not at all. And this version of the townhouse proposal, even in R6, would still require a plan development or multiple variances.
Would the plan development have to come back before us?
It would.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification.
Yes.
No, just for clarification. As you said, Matt, this same applicant brought the same request before in 2020 and in 2020, and it was denied.
It was the same request for zoning change and also a plan development request at the same time.
Yes.
The zoning, and it was a different layout.
Yes.
Different proposal altogether in terms of the development, but the same rezoning request. The plan development request at that time was for 15 dwelling units as a mixed type residential. It was both single family detached and sort of a duplex looking building and also townhouses. It was a variety of residential, which actually helped their plan development request because it was a mixed residential usage. There was 15 dwelling units. The outcome of that was the rezoning was denied, recommended by planning commission 9-1 for denial. City council denied unanimously. That nixed the plan development request. In this case, same applicant, same proposal, different designer, different design proposal, but similar dwelling unit count. But this one would be exclusively townhouse type development, but does not meet the standard townhouse regs in terms of its dimensions.
And that, this time it asked for 17 dwelling units,
Well, the first proposal sent to you was 17, this is 16.
but the now, back in 2020 was 15, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
What's changed in that area in 5 years?
Well, the roads are very short, so
That's
we're
right.
hearing from some of the same neighbors.
I have a question. What is this one RP triangular lot here at the end of
Okay.
this cul-de-sac?
That is a rezoning case done by Lowndes County many, many years ago to allow a duplex to be built on that lot in that neighborhood. So it was after 1972. And there's a duplex sitting there. From a distance, it looks like a house, but when you get up into the cul-de-sac, there's 2 front doors. The lot to the right of that, if you look 2 lots to the south on the east side, I believe that's where the other duplex is on that street. And on Walmart, I think there's only 1 duplex, and that is right where that R-15 label is sitting, also at the head of the cul-de-sac. Everything else around there is single-family homes. The map that the applicant engineer was referring to for rental property, if I remember right, it shows 4 rental houses around the perimeter, but 7 owner-occupied houses. Most of the houses, though, are in R10 standard, which means they may be less than 1,200 square feet. But also, I know the lots are R10 size lots instead of R15, which is why I'm recommending an R10 zone.
Well, last question.
Moving right.
Last question. The current plans show Eagle Road at its existing location, or does it include the expansion of Eagle Road, because that would cause impact of setback?
Right, it would. I don't think there's right-of-way acquisition along Acre Road, maybe construction easements. right of way for either is pretty wide. And they're going from 2 lanes to 3 lanes, so 4 lanes closer to the intersections. So it's just being torn up right now, but I think it's all within the right of way. The other thing I would note is even if there were expansions to the north into the property, you're affecting the detention pond that's being proposed, not the buildings. And there's even extra room there, so if they had to shift the pond, they've got room to do it. But that conversation would have already taken place between DOT, contractors, and the property.
All right, at this time, we will entertain a motion regarding case VA 2025-11.
Mr. Chairman, in reference to the 2025-11, 1.8 acres, going from single-family residential 15 to single-family residential R6, without a clear understanding of where he would be willing to do an R10 or not. I'm gonna base it off the fact of what he is requesting, and I think it's out of character for the area, and I make a motion, we recommend denial.
Second.
We have a motion for denial and a second. All in favor?
Wait a minute. So, tell me your motion again.
My motion is to go down with it because I asked the question if R10 would be
Okay.
presentable, and they said no, it would not.
All right,
It
so
would not
your
work.
motion is to deny R6.
Yeah.
Deny
That's
R6.
good one. Good one. So
Because that's what he's requesting,
It's a
and
nebulous.
we can't make a decision for something that we don't know that he's requesting or not.
All right.
And this is out of character for the area. So that's
So, so your motion is to deny R6, but is it to go with staff's recommendations of R10 instead, or just no,
No,
deny
no,
R6?
no, I'm just going down
Okay.
because we have no,
Gotcha.
you know, the speculation, I was reading, I asked a while ago, I'm sorry, was the applicant open to R10, and they said it wouldn't work or whatever.
Okay.
So we have nobody here that can tell us that R10 would be something that they would consider. So therefore, the only thing, in my opinion, is based it off of what his request is
It's R6.
his request in the zoning, and I think it's out of character for the area, and it won't fit in there,
Okay.
so make a motion to that.
Your second still stands as stated?
Okay.
Okay. Now, all in favor of denial? That's good. Okay. And all
Not in
negative
favor
to
of
the
the motion.
denial?